another Batman one, a little Batman focused one, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which I happened to watch the other day, just kind of getting ready for this because it is such a fantastic movie. It's a continuation of the Batman the Animated Series. It's basically the finale of it. It's just, it's a movie within the same universe. It's so well done, and Kevin Conroy as Batman was great. Mark Hamill as the Joker was great. It brought in a villain that we weren't familiar with yet, and there was a little mystery around it. But and Batman the Animated Series has been widely regarded as one of the best superhero animated shows of all time because it dealt with very, very complex storylines. There was nothing, cutesy or fun about it. It was a very serious show, produced by Tim Burton.
I mean, I'd be happy if we spent a few episodes just talking about Batman the Animated Series, because
there is endless topics.
So many good topics.
There are, and it's like the only one where they've really it's the only thing live action animated where they've ever shown Batman as being like a true hero, where he wanted to actually help the criminals. Like he was actually trying to help them through their stuff, to rehabilitate them, to bring them back to society and everything. It wasn't just him going around like punching things. It was a lot of times he had personal connections to these, to the villains he was fighting, and he was trying to bring them back to the good side of things. And there's just like so many things you can talk about with the show, like Sam said, and it's like it'd be impossible to cover it in the short amount of time we got on this podcast. And maybe it's just something we come back to one day, but Mask of the Phantasm was amazing. Very, very good.
This came out when I was about 11 years old, and I watched it over and over and over again. When they say Mark Hamill is one of the best Jokers, you think, well, that's crazy. It was an animated Joker. No, that Joker was just about as depraved as any other Joker. Like, this was a freaking great Joker that made you feel like you're insane. Like, the way he laughed and the timing of it all was just like, he had no remorse for what he was doing. It was just amazing. And it was very much reflected in this movie. I want both of us to die together, Batman. That was a part of this movie. And that's a part of that running kind of the way Joker's twisted mind works with how he sees his relationship with Batman. And also, yeah, you're right about how Batman's relationship with the bad guys, but specifically Catwoman. Mm-hmm. I remember him having this, and he's always had that relationship, but this empathy for Catwoman. But I remember in this specifically, me having like Catwoman being one of my favorite characters, and him having this empathy for Catwoman, that he was just like, why are you doing this? Stop doing this. Like, he's trying to save her more than put her in prison or put her in Arkham.
Yeah, he was legitimately trying to save people.
Yeah.
Like, that was... He was a true hero. And you watch the cartoon, and you're just like, this is...
And Mr. Freeze, too. That was another great
oh my gosh,
villain in this. Like,
yeah.
That story in this with his wife and everything was an amazing, touching storyline in this series. Like, this is such a great series.
So, first of all the Batman villains, they all had some sort of tragic backstory, something that can make you empathize with them. Except for like Joker, it's
just crazy.
Yeah.
No, Joker's just the goat.
But yeah, Mr. Freeze is one that I've always empathized with. I've always understood, like, well, I could see myself kind of going that way if I had the resources and the intelligence. I don't. But back to your other point about Mark Hamill. I mean, we can argue day and night about the best live action Joker. Um, but as far as animated series go, man, it's Mark Hamill. He
Yeah.
has never been topped as a Joker.
No, when what's his name? I want to say Brian DiMaggio, but I think that's wrong. The guy who does the voice of Bender in Futurama, he came in and did the
John
Joker's
DiMaggio.
voice one time. John DiMaggio, thank you. He came in and did the Joker's voice in one of the animated movies or shows. I can't remember what it was, but he came in and did it. When I heard his voice, I was like, "That's fucking Bender." I was
No,
like, I couldn't hear it.
He did a really good job.
But you're comparing to Mark Hamill every time.
Yeah, the problem is you're comparing to Mark Hamill, number one. Number two, you know him so well from Futurama as Bender. So even if he has changed his voice so far away from that, it's so hard to get away from Bender. And number three, I never really enjoyed his character model in that version of the Joker.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think one of the best points, and we're gonna talk obviously about the cartoon a little bit just because it was so iconic. But after Batman the Animated Series and the Batman Superman series, there was the Justice League series, and there was an episode, I think it was a two-parter, that had the Royal Flush Gang working with Joker to take over a casino. You know exactly where I'm going with this.
The most heartbreaking scene in any animated series
ever. So like the Royal Flush Gang, they kind of beat them, but the Ace of Hearts, she's sitting on a swing, and she's like going to die.
She's like a 10-year-old girl.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes,
she's like a 10-year-old girl who's been running this gang, and she knows she's about to die. She's going to die very, very soon.
She's got superpowers. She can manipulate things, but they kind of beat the rest of the Royal Flush Gang, and she's there, and she kind of had issues with what they were doing, but she's like sitting there, and Batman's the one who goes up and talks to her, and he sits down on the swing next to her, like this thing that could, this girl who could just kill him in an instant. He goes and sits down next to her and just starts talking to her, and basically just stays with her until she dies. Like that is, like that when you watch that, it is a tearjerker.
Her looking at Batman and saying, essentially, "I don't want to be alone. Just stay with me."
Yeah.
Oh my!
And he just stays.
I have not been able to watch that scene again without like full on tears coming down my face.
It hits hard. It hits hard, and that's the Batman we're talking about in the Mask of the Phantasm, and why it's highly regarded as one of the best Batman or DC animated movies ever. So. Again, we can talk more in depth about Batman the Animated Series another time. We're going to make that a whole subject of just our favorite episodes. But I think that was great.
Yeah, I mean,
Sam,
as long as we're here, we'll talk about Kevin Conroy. Some Batman.
Rest in peace. He was.
Yeah.
He was. Just so much effort went into that show, it holds up. I went through and rewatched it on Max recently, and it holds up.